Hi, guys. Before we get to this episode of Needlessly Complicated Chaos, I just want to head this one up with a trigger warning. The following episode can contain some intense subjects, and they may not be comfortable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised. Check the trigger warnings in the show notes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Needlessly Complicated Chaos, the podcast that is exactly what it says on the tin. A little bit complicated, a lot of bit chaos. I am one of your hosts. My name is Ace. My pronouns are he, him, and I am joined by.
My name is Lynn. Hello, everybody. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Sky. I am she, they for my pronoun.
So, today we're just kind of going to shoot the shit a bit and talk about some of the stuff that we are really interested in at the moment and what's captivating us in our nerdy little worlds. I don't know if anybody in particular wanted to go first. What's on y'all's mind?
Well, go
Well,
ahead.
I can start.
Okay, go for it.
I've been rewatching a lot of Downton Abbey, and I've had a lot of thoughts, especially about season 4-5. Dear Lord.
Oh man, I like Downton Abbey a lot. I love me a good period drama, and I feel like that's got all the. Side note, first side note of this already. Just does anyone else have beef with the term period drama? Because
Yes.
doesn't it just sound like the worst way to describe what they
Well,
mean?
yes and no, in the sense that, I get that they want to, specify a period in time drama, but
Yeah, but don't you imagine, period product dress up in period clothes?
Just reskin all of Downton Abbey, but just change every character for a different colored tampon. That's
Not just tampon, some of them are pads,
yes,
some of
some
them
of
are,
them are diva cups.
cups.
perfect. I love that. Oh, what's the kitchen lady should be a diva cup?
Mrs. Patmore.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely.
And I
Now,
feel like what's it, Lord Pissy Pants? What's his name?
there are many Lord Pissy Pantses.
The main Lord Pissy Pants, the
Lord
father.
Grantham?
Yeah, him. I feel like he would be old school, like the old rag setup they had in the Victorian timies. That he's that.
Just a piece of cloth.
His turn. Yep.
No, I
To
have
be
a better
fair,
idea. Like the emergency tampon. Like a
Yes.
piece of toilet paper rolled up and just
It's
shoved
just
in
the
there.
dank one. Yep. Classy, really highbrow visual. So,
absolutely.
to
Now,
circle
moving
back to
on
your actual point.
from menstrual period relations to time period relations.
Ah, yes, the actual meaning of that phrase, of course.
Now, so to be fair, Sky is not as familiar with Downton Abbey as Ace and I are,
At all.
but
To
at
be
all.
fair, I have not watched it in its entirety. I watched the heck out of the Matthew years and then just dropped
Yeah.
off.
Those were the better years.
Because he's super cute. That's irrelevant, but it's a thing. Am I
is
wrong?
it irrelevant though?
Little column A, little column B. But yeah,
But no, just as a forewarning, this is gonna have a bit of a disclaimer for season 4. I mean, not just spoiler wise, but there is a specific piece of content in there that's not the most fun. So just as a trigger warning, I am going to be talking a bit about sexual assault here. Mm, So, because season 4 specifically dealt with the sexual assault that happened to the character named Anna, who was who was a lady's maid in the show, but it also dealt in a sneakier manner with a sexual assault that happened to a male character.
that's very progressive for a show set in that era.
hmm Although the way that it was dealt, obviously typical the time period, wasn't really talked about either. But but it's just interesting to compare the two instances, whereas one was treated much more seriously, which of course it was still a serious thing,
Yeah.
but the other was not necessarily slid by, but almost made it seem as if it shouldn't be as important. And specifically, I'm talking about the instance where Tom Branson was, in fact, sexually assaulted.
That's interesting. I think that actually opens up a more large dialogue about how it's kind of the responsibility of a TV show, I find, that if it's going to go there, not necessarily just in sexual assault cases, but in any like trigger warning-able subject matter, that it really should be trying to address those accurately. But then you have that weird double standard of period pieces and
Hmm.
how they have to also portray the times. Like, it can't be just, oh, we know this is wrong, so let's portray it handled a way it would never be handled realistically in that time period. And it's really
Hmm.
interesting how to walk that tightrope as a content creator and not really fuck that up. Because I
And
feel
with an
like
E was one of the series that actually did it beautifully, addressing like serious issue but still being a period piece.
Oh, I'm sorry, you said Anne with an E, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
oh, that's
yes.
the Anne of Green Gables Z type thing, right?
It
that
is Anne of
basically
Green Gable,
yeah.
not Anne of Green Gable Z.
I
But like they basically took what Anne of the Green Gable, but like all those trauma that they don't talk about, they put it up front, like
oh
all her trauma that she had from working as a child in another family and being abused
oh shit, eh?
multiple ways.
Oh yeah. If you
It's a
read like
really great show. I believe that it's still on Netflix.
it is, and also it's a Canadian TV show.
Gotta rep
Yay!
the home team, you know.
Yeah, but just as a quick comeback to Downton Abbey, like
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm bringing Tom's assault is that um it was treated like as if it was less important or like easier for Tom to get away with it. Like they didn't delve into Tom's trauma about it at all.
Which I feel like, on the one hand, I think they could have done if they were worried about making it not timely. Then they
Hmm.
should have been like, have the other people be like, it's not a big deal, but show him being very upset about it. But if they didn't actually do that, then I feel like that actually slides over into just sloppy management of difficult
Hmm.
topics. Because,
Hmm.
like, if you want to keep it within meta, you go, okay, yeah, but we don't talk about that because that's how
Hmm.
it was back then, and then
Yep.
show the character going through it anyway. But if you're going to edit that part out, then that just sounds like you tried to be forward thinking and you actually just aren't. And that is actually a very interesting point because it's not often you see in the same show
Hmm.
that like contrast,
Exactly.
which is very hit or miss.
I mean, it of course it is a difficult subject to broach just in general, so still props to them for actually even showing the fact that even a man, even at that time, could get sexually assaulted. Of course, it wasn't as explicitly said that it was, but it was heavily implied. So just to give context to Sky, like,
Thank you.
and to anyone who hasn't seen the show,
Yeah.
essentially the situation is that one of the housemaids that got brought in was basically trying to baby trap Tom into marrying her.
Okay.
So
Oh.
she got him drunk, like very drunk, and then sneaked into his room and then basically took advantage of him,
Oh,
Which
okay.
was a thing.
Oh
which was
yeah.
a thing. And
I mean, it
that is
still
still,
is. It still is a
Yeah.
thing.
it still is a thing. And but that is definitely sexual assault because he was not in the right state of mind to properly consent.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only consent is informed, enthusiastic consent.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
when you are hammered, you're not given that. So I
Exactly.
actually think that that's really interesting that they went with that angle too, because it shows at least like this is why I think it might have just been sloppy handling, but good intent, because it
Hmm.
sure does seem like they tried to go the route less talked about, and I think that's admirable. I just think maybe they were uncertain of how quite to stick the landing
Hmm.
in the portrayal, but I do think that
As
that's interesting.
especially that like we have less information about abuse to men in general
That is
because
very true.
it's not talked about, like it's shameful. It's
Yeah,
still shameful for a woman, but it's more accepted socially.
yeah, It is a
which
weird
is
balance
weird,
that we
messed
give
up.
that. Well, because
Hmm.
that is that overarching misogyny coming back in, with the patriarchy actually being more harmful than people think it is, because they're just like, oh well, it's the patriarchy, it's for the men. Well, not really. Like, it's not actually for anyone's best interest, and there's your proof.
No.
Because if it was actually pro men, like they try to preach it as being, then when men's issues come up, they'd care. The patriarchy is less pro men and more just anti women than anything else,
Yeah,
and it
but
shows.
because Anna's well, rape really it was shown to still affect her like seasons going on to even to like basically to the end of the show, whereas for Tom's instance it was literally just that episode. We don't see him how he reacts to that further anywhere going forward.
That is, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm really on the fence on whether or not that would land as they had the best intentions but couldn't stick the landing, or if it is just super sloppy. Like, I do feel like I can see the intent there, but there's a lot of mixed messaging, and I think if you are going to go there, it is your responsibility as a content creator to handle these kind of subject matters with care, because
Yeah.
it is hard for people who've lived through this or know people who've lived through this to actually experience this, and to see it portrayed in a bad light keeps perpetuating all these really dangerous pre-existing ideas that exist around sexual assault and the subsequent like years it takes off people's lives. You
Hmm.
know.
And it's also that like they know that they're a comfort show at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And
like
So like
Downton
they
Abbey
have
is a well-known thing. Like
mm-hmm.
they're making sequels and prequels and movies about it.
exactly, but it's a comfort show in the sense of like when you don't want to watch anything that stimulate your brain, you're going to like a show that you watch 1,000 times. It's that kind of show.
Yeah, because it is a slice of life, like in terms of genre, and slice of lives by definition have to really give you that, oh, lived in world, I can come back to these characters and feel like I'm just one of the gang. Like, that's like the whole appeal of those kind of shows. So for it to deal with really harsh topics, I think is brave, but to deal with them ham-fistedly is very negligent, because a lot of people are going to have their eyes on such a thing, and it's going to perpetuate dangerous stereotypes.
To be fair to the show, it was made like in the early 2000s, I believe.
Not really, because it
No,
was
it was in the
still airing in the
2010s.
2010s. Yeah,
Yeah, it was in the 2010s. I apologize.
I think it's contemporary enough that they should have known better.
mm, fair, fair. Although I realized I brought in a rather heavy subject
To
in trying
start
to
with,
discuss something that is supposed to be more lighthearted, but I did find that that in particular, at least in terms of a show that is supposed to appeal to a lot of people, like as Ace said, they did have good intentions in trying to portray it, and it is interesting, at least for period piece, to show that to begin with. But whether or not it was done the best way, up to debate.
Yeah, I concur. So let's move along to the next show, because obviously we can talk about these specific topics forever. Um, Scott, did you want to go for next?
go go ahead. I know that you had something in mind.
Yeah, I do. Well, for me, my current my forever obsession, let's be real, is Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire. But that's actually
Surprise, surprise.
Who would have guessed?
so on brand, right? But no, actually, what I'm actually obsessed of at the minute is the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, lore, mythos, all that good stuff. So
Which is absolutely funny that you're gonna talk about this while Lynn is there.
I know, I'm sorry,
I do
Lynn.
not like it.
So like, I actually just want to talk about like how nuanced it is, because what fascinates me about the series, and I think about what draws me to any kind of media that I get, I don't want to say obsessed of, but like actually very invested in, I find it's gotta have, how to put this, it has to have a very complex inner working for it to be interesting. I don't mind things that are just like, here's the narrative, this is it, that's all, it's very on its sleeve, this is exactly what we want, drop in, drop out. I don't mind that stuff, but I never find myself thinking about it after the fact, you know? And I feel like you can really mark your commitment to a piece of media by how much of your brain space it really takes up, like when you're not actually engaging with it.
Hmm.
So what I like about FNaF is like you could easily just go, oh, it's just the scary pop-up jump scare game. Oh, look at those spooky animatronics. All of us millennials go, Chuck E. Cheese torture memories. But like what I do like about it though is it has a really cool society element to it because all the games launched with this baked in mystery that you only get some of the parts of, and you have to go through the game in like real life. You has to go through the game combing for this information, and then you have all the Reddit threads, the theory videos, the YouTube fandom where they are all discussing it, and the creator has kind of created this ARG, like augmented reality game, where there's the story of the games, but there's also this bigger community aspect where we're all together trying to find out the mystery. And another cool thing that I like that the creator really does is like when fans get really attached to like say an animatronic that we see or whatever, and we name it something, it doesn't canonly have that name, but the next game it appears, it's got the name that the fans gave it. And I think that kind of
Which is
engagement,
awesome.
right? Like I think that
That's
kind of engagement's neat.
yeah, that's the kind of like gamer slash creator relationship that works well. That the fact that, while the creator still has control about most things, they do still listen and try to implement content that the fans have into their actual game.
Yeah, and I like that back and forth too, because then as you go through the series and you get more invested, because it is an actual interesting mystery, like for any true crime nerds, honestly, it's worth looking into, and I can't really explain anything without getting 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of crazy, but like, um, it's just really to hyper simplify it. It's kind of irrelevant that it takes place at a Elseworld terrifying Chuck E. Cheese because it's really just about this one family with a dad who happens to be a serial killer and how his kids have to deal with that and how his oldest son goes, you need to be stopped and I'm going to find a way to do it. And we're still slowly unlocking the mysteries. We just learned about the mother in the most recent game. We're learning a little bit more about the sister and the youngest brother who died under mysterious circumstances. So it's like it's really interesting story about this one family and also about like how that serial killer guy, the head of that family, him and his best friend are the ones who own the Fazbear Entertainment Company that started this whole thing. So you're learning about both of their families, their backstories, and how the games really connect. And it's all this interesting web. And for me, I find that fascinating, so much more so than just, this is a piece of media, it is what it is, sit down and look at it. I like that interactivity aspect.
And the slow reveal of things.
Yeah, because it feels more rewarding, Kind of like you want to come back to it every year when there's a new installment, or every couple of months when someone figures something out. And there's now the books that run alongside the games as well, so that's
Oh,
a
there are
whole,
even books now.
yeah, a scholastic
Wow.
book line at that, so.
Like super horror, like kind of greedy kind of thing. Scholastic.
Yeah.
You would not think that those two things go together, but apparently they do.
I
Right?
used to have like those pamphlet of Scholastic thing that you would like check off which book you wanted.
Oh my god, yes! It's such a
My English
millennial thing.
teacher used to give those to us, and every time I would look through the booklet and be like, I want all those things, but of course I would never bring them to my mother because, of course, she would not buy them because.
Because there are always like some like,
Same.
oh, pay $20 for this bookmark, and you're like, yes, I would love to do that. And then you bring it to your parents, they're like, are you crazy, child? I'm not buying you.
It's like $20 for a bookmark. $20 can buy us food for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not that extreme, but you get the idea.
It was the 90s, 2000s, so maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair, very fair.
Maybe. But yeah, so that was just like my little thing. Like I love media that's interactive, and I like really looking for things. I think it's like the whole reason why the true crime heads are like so into it, because there's this real world community aspect of you all solving a mystery together. And I think that's pretty fun.
Mm.
So what's got
And
your
you're telling You're telling that to both Sky and I, who do not like scary games.
I know,
At
I know.
all.
The games are super spoopy, but the mystery in the story is very good. At some point, I will probably try and explain it to you guys, so that way you don't have to see the scary bits. You can just know the fun, interesting stuff. So what's got your attention at the moment, Sky?
Oh, so many things, but really, what I'm going to talk about today is going to be Steven Universe to give a break from all this horror and nastiness.
Yeah, we started this a little
We
heavy-handed there, didn't we?
apologize, kind of.
Here's a hard thing, and then I'm like, sunshine, rainbows.
Look, we will
Yeah.
all have sunshine and rainbows moments. It
You
just
guys
happens
will.
to be Sky today.
You guys will.
Like it's not something that is in the Ace repertoire
No.
at all.
I'm a cuddly human being with terrible, terrible interests. That's just the
That is a
warmth
pretty
is
accurate description.
the warmth is for the personable bits, not my interests.
Which is really funny, I know. And you're like, nope.
I know, right? Just chaotic
Gayest in
bisexual
both
energy.
sense of the word.
Yes, yes, like all excited, jabbering nerdiness and hyper bisexual panic at all points, and then just really, really dark interests.
Oh yeah.
I'm a very weird egg. But yes,
I
Steven
think
Universe.
we all are. Yes, Steven
Steven
Universe.
Universe.
So, the thing I like about this show is it was one of the first kid show that I saw that attacked real issues and not
Mm.
shy away from it. Like that gender nor sexuality matters. They're just accepted. They're like, okay, fine. Move
That's
on
crazy
next.
for a kid show.
It is, especially like for when it aired. Like around that time, because Steven Universe started in the 2010s, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe
think
it's
even
2010s.
And even around that time, having shows that portrayed either same-sex relationships or relationships that were not heteronormative or gender identities that weren't heteronormative was rare, and they usually happened to side characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
But
I can think of a couple of shows. Like I think Gumball was one. One of them. Another was like
the Amazing World of Gumball.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Adventure Time as well.
Adventure
Time as
Time.
well. But for example, I'll get helps you circle back to
Yeah.
Steven Universe in a moment. But one of the big moments in that time was Legend of Korra,
Yep.
when Korra and Asami at the end, while they did not like kiss or like do anything quote unquote overtly romantic, they were established at the end of the show as a couple. In that moment,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
moment took the creators everything they had to be able to just show that.
Yeah.
Which is wild that Steven Universe was able to just because I know I'm not like a watcher myself, but I do know just a ridiculous amount of information since all my friends watch it. But like I know things like is it Garnet and Amethyst? That's the one, or is it Garnet?
Garnet
itself?
is a combination of
Yeah,
Ruby and Sapphire.
right. Like the
They're a
fact
couple.
They're
the
a
fact
couple.
that is just canonical, like from the jump. That's brave for a kid
Yeah.
show, and I love
Yeah.
that. I love that they went
Like from the first few episodes, you can see how much Pearl, who's like one of the moms, if you want,
Steven
had
three
a
moms.
deep love for Steven's mom.
there. Mm.
And not being
biological
judged
mother.
at all for
No.
like that relationship at all.
That's
The-
great. Honestly,
Yeah,
Which
and-
was great for like that. Like it was
You basically never saw
2013.
Yeah, you basically never saw that in other kids' medias before.
that's true. Because you'd always get like the implied gay character, but you'd have no confirmation, or it would just be like a throwaway line and then nothing. So for the fact that them to actually make that a plot point, and it's like Lynn said, like with Legend of Korra, they had to fight tooth and nail for that.
Yeah.
And with Adventure Time, to put Marceline and
Yeah.
Princess Bubblegum together, they literally had to disengage from Cartoon Network and continue to release Adventure Time in other media
Yeah.
just to be allowed to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So for 2013, that's big.
Oh yeah,
And like,
yeah, and it was right after like Rebecca Sugar left Adventure Time, so like she already had like that going of being stuffed for that.
Yeah.
it took Rebecca Sugar as well everything
Oh
to
yeah.
be able to like
She was like,
canonically
this is my
show in the end.
show,
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
deal with that. If you're not happy, I will make it happen somewhere else. And they were like, no, your fandom is one of the biggest that we had since Adventure Time, so let's keep you.
Yeah. And I can't help but be bothered by how much
Yeah.
money had to talk for that to be allowed. You know what I mean? Because that's really messed up.
Unfortunately. Like, we're
I
getting
mean,
better, but we're
S-
not there yet.
we're not
sadly,
really
no.
there.
And like, honestly, like, as queer youths ourselves, like, it's a lot to just get that little bit of validation and representation. And I think it's really important that we find ways to put that into the kids' media to have that like acceptance feel more normalized. Like they had one canonically homosexual character, and I believe it was the Disney movie Onward. I think that's the one with the little blue orc looking peoples. I didn't
Yes,
see the movie. I
that's
just
actually a
remember the
Pixar movie.
yeah, well, I mean, Pixar is owned by Disney, so
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah, but
get
it
to do
doesn't
things
count.
that the House of Mouse don't allow.
The House of Mouse.
But
We
like,
have an odd relationship with Disney. We love it and we hate it.
yeah, yeah, it's very that. But like, that was like such a huge controversy, and you don't even see anything in this
But
movie, which is
that
ridiculous to
might
me that that's
be
still controversial.
why our generation, especially, is trying to find so many gay characters in other media. Like sometimes I find that like we're trying to push our will for
Hmm.
that when there's like no hint, but like we're so starved for having those character included that we're like, no, Elsa's gay now
Yes, Elsa's gay now because I said it. But like, yeah,
because of
Well,
that one song, and I'm like, okay, yes, but that was not the point of the song, but sure.
I mean, you can
yeah,
interpret it that way, and that's also a way to interpret it. I'm not taking that away from you, but it's also not technically speaking that.
and that's just in and of itself the thing, right? Because at this point we have so many queer coded characters that are clearly intended, written to be queer somewhere in the LGBTQ
Oh
plus
yeah,
spectrum, and then we don't get that follow through, so then we land on that heterosexual presumption. And I think our generation specifically, like millennials, are the first to really be like, look, enough with this nonsense. Let's make a change. And you really see that push being picked up by Gen Zs, and I think further generations aren't going to have that weird thing like we have, like where in our childhood there just wasn't that representation. And now you're seeing it slowly start to become more and more and more common, and queer coding become less of a thing and more just these characters are overtly queer, because real life is that way. Like,
yeah,
queer people are everywhere.
But
The idea that we pretend in media that they don't exist or that they're just caricatures is very harmful.
yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Because a gay
But
man
I
is like wearing pink and having those matter, and like a gay woman looks like a trucker with like no hygiene, and like a bisexual just fucks everything. Um,
Yeah,
those are not
so
the case.
and like,
those
while
are
I'm
not
sure
true.
some people identify personally with those things, and that's valid and perfectly fine,
Yeah,
the idea that that's the only version of these things we see is super flawed. It's like
Yeah.
how every transgender story is always just this one person having the worst fucking time of their life and everyone being a disrespectful shit, which is a
yeah,
terrible message to give trans youth. So, like, it's one of those things where like we went from the histories of cinema where we would have the fop and that would only be the only kind of gay male we'd get, and then we got the
Mhm.
lesbian trucker and that would be the only type of gay female we got, and then
and
again,
even then,
and even then if we were allowed to have that, you know,
Yeah.
like, and then we would get like bisexuals who would just be somebody who was just super portrayed as super slutty, which in and of itself is problematic because we're not showing them as being sexually liberated, we're showing it as not only inherently a
As
bisexual
sexually
trait.
promiscuous, which is
Yeah.
not the same thing as being sexually liberated.
Exactly, and like that's got such bad overtones. And then, like I said, for trans kids, we keep just showing them trauma left, right, and center, and no success. And like we're not even getting non-binary characters, so like that's
No.
just terrible. So like it's
Like, we're starting now.
finally, slowly, I'm seeing it, and I'm loving that. But like it's one of those things where like this needs to change, this pervasive narrative that this is how it is, because it's not that. And when you get all these kids who have all these versions of heteronormative stuff, and the homosexual element is like treated so otherly in media, I think a lot of us learn via media, so to treat it as some taboo other is causing way more harm than I think they are even aware that it is.
Like, the default should be, like, anything.
Yeah.
And if you're straight, that's fine. But it's after that you, like, discover that.
Yeah.
It's like gender. Gender should not be assigned until that person is ready to decide.
Exactly. Because, like, yes, there's all the medical, sex, whatever. I'm not getting into that, because that is neither here nor there.
But who
gender,
cares?
exactly. Gender itself is an expression, and the way society interacts with gender is entirely, like, created. It's not
Absolutely.
natural. So
like older societies had multiple genders for like they didn't just have the binary of male female. A lot of older societies had like a third gender or even a fourth or some like just somewhere that exists in between the quote unquote binary.
Exactly.
Still cultures now that have that as well. So
yeah, the idea that we need to make it some kind of black and white is so harmful. And I can only imagine, like, I mean, I say I can only imagine, but, like, obviously I was a queer youth. I am a queer adult. But, like, as a kid, I remember, like, looking through media and being like, there's never gay characters. And, like, I feel like I was lucky. I have gay uncles. So I was just like, I had something there as an elder queer figure. But, like, as a youth, it's rough when you don't see anyone like you in media.
mm-hmm.
Like, it has taken me 30 years to, like, hey, I'm not only a she, like, I'm more than that. And because there was no representation of what I am in the media.
Yeah.
There's no representation of a possibility even of a day.
No, absolutely not. And even now it's been fighting in the media.
And like no, continue.
Go.
Okay. Just too much politeness all at once. But
Canadians!
So
Canadians! Such a Canadian moment. Like, go. No, you. No, you. No, it's fine. Go. You go. I'm so sorry.
If I was holding a door.
Right? Just so you go. But, yeah, no, like, it's one of those things where it's like, if we just destigmatized it in the media, like, not to put all this weight on content creators, because obviously the thing about media is each thing has got its own message and it's trying to do its own narrative already, so like,
which fair,
but they should not
enough.
be afraid to use more diversity.
Exactly.
Like, they're starting to have more people of color, for example, in the media.
Yes.
Let's not even go there.
But I mean, no,
I'm just
true,
saying
though.
it's starting. Like, it's not good.
But it's getting there.
But it's getting there.
It's starting.
That actually loops really nicely back around to media, because now we've had, what, this is 3 consecutive, I know this is going to be a bit personal for me, but like 3 consecutive Hispanic, Latinx, like, movies from Disney that have really hit the mark. It's more that, like, as a little Mexican boy, like, I had fucking Spy Kids and Dragon Tales. That's what you get.
Oh my god,
That's it.
Dragon Tales!
That's it, right? So I was just like,
nostalgia just hit.
Oh, love Dragon Tales.
Sorry, interruption.
No, it's fine. Dragon Tales fucking slaps. But, like, it's one of those things where there wasn't that representation. And, like, it's great for all the kids who, like, couldn't see themselves in media as children. or you would just have a token Hispanic character. Now we are the movie, homie, and that's great. That difference is everything. Still, Coco and Kanto,
Oh my god, so good. Encanto.
Both excellent movies.
exactly, and they deal with things in such an authentic, realistic way, and I am here for it.
And the music slaps.
The music
Oh my god, they
slaps. Oh my
do.
god. I'm pretty
Lin-Manuel
sure
Miranda can take our souls.
that man's is too talented. He's too dang talented.
He's Alexander Hamilton. Like, the guy cannot stop writing for a second. If you
Like-
see the list of things that he's working
Sky
or
showed me.
worked on,
Sky described to me a list of like the things he was doing, and I'm just like, dear lordy.
there's not a place that he's not touching.
Right? Like this.
That's what she said, but
But no, he's a lovely human making really good content. But like that's exactly it. That diversity and that dealing with the hard topics in media, it's slowly becoming more progressive
like,
and really
since
getting
the
there.
2010s, like, I'm not saying that we're a good place, but since the 2010s, like, we made huge progress from where we were.
Which is crazy for only 10 years, because when you look back to the things that we were watching as kids, and like we're all now 30-ish, like when you were looking at the things 90s kids watched, there wasn't that stuff. And like
No,
realistically
we're,
speaking,
we're kids for a reason. Like, did you
Well,
see
there's that.
Samurai Pizza Cat? Like,
yes, exactly. Samurai
To be
Pizza.
fair, though,
we are an
even
odd
if there-
generation on
even
purpose.
if there was representation in any way, it was always done in the very, very token way.
Yes.
Like you had your token black, your
Mhm.
token Asian, your token Hispanic, and the rest were white.
Yep. Like,
I'm,
and-
I'm specifically thinking of the example of the Magic School Bus because
oh, that's the perfect
Yeah.
example.
that's
Like-
a perfect example. Like, it's based. Every
that.
character is the same.
It's
Exactly.
exactly that.
here's the thing: I still love the Magic School Bus, the '90s around show. Like
Yeah.
it's still a
Who
pretty good show.
doesn't?
The science may or may not really hold up, but
Oh,
as a
it doesn't.
basic as a basic
It doesn't.
explanation for certain things, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But if you look at that show, they are the very extremely token characters. You had 3 characters of color, 4,
Yeah.
because Keisha was there.
Oh,
but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
but like all the rest were white.
Mhm. You're right. It's a terrible portrayal.
It's a terrible portrayal, but it was very true from, like, that time period.
yeah.
But what I mean is that even that was essentially to me the representation I had as an Asian person.
Mhm.
Wanda was the only thing I related to in that show.
Yeah.
And you know what the worst part is? Is like they were effectively just palette swaps. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they were just palette swaps. Those were all just white-coated characters with the very minimalist flavor they could put to pretend they're people of color.
Exactly.
And like,
That was also the problem.
the worst part is like when you mentioned her name, I couldn't even remember.
Remember?
her
You don't
name.
remember? Like, you're like the Asian kid.
Yeah, I'm like that.
Just
random
remember,
kid.
there's the Asian kid.
To be fair, aside from that one little dumbass who took his helmet off in space because he was having an emo moment, like, and Carlos just because he like resurfaced as like a meme a little while ago, they're the only ones that
Carlos.
weren't Miss Frizzle, whose names I actually remember.
Like, I don't
Like,
remember
that's it.
at all their names.
Yeah,
But that's about it. And Wanda, obviously, because again, Asian, she was the only one I identified with.
exactly. And like as a like. I know this is definitely just a me thing, but I hate token comedic characters. Like, I get why they're popular, I understand why they're necessary, all these things. I don't think they're problematic in writing. Just personally, 10 on 10, I'm not a fan. So the fact that Carlos is that, I was like, there's nothing for me in this show. Why am I even here?
Like,
I love
what
that
you
show, though.
would need to do to, like, made you love a character like that is to make a mini Dracula kind of Mexican guy.
Oh my god, yes. But I don't know if vampires are enough to make me like token funny guy character types.
Well, I
mean,
can
you
tell
are
you
a
that you like
vampire,
Ruby
so-
Gloom, right?
Wait, I love Ruby Gloom, so...
Oh,
So
I love
much.
Ruby Gloom.
But
It's also a
basically-
Canadian show.
and,
Hell yeah.
like, so good. Like, if you were an emo kid
Oh, peak.
in
It's so
the
good.
early 2000s,
That was the good shit.
that was the show that you were watching completely for, like, really young kids, but, like, you didn't care.
But I
It's a
love
good
shows like
show.
that, and I think it's super important to introduce youth to all these alternative cultures, and like have like not necessarily just a token goth character, because I think that that's really annoying and it doesn't really do representation properly. But I like spooky shit for spooky kids. Like Mona the Vampire was my
Oh my
life. It was
god!
Oh
everything to me
my
as a
son would
child.
watch it so much.
It's
I have
so
been
good.
thrown back into the nostalgia.
We're showing our age with this one, but and that we are Canadian maximum, because Mona the Vampire is again Canadian show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mona the Vampire, Groovy Ghoulies, even Scooby Doo, because that shit is spoopy. People
Yeah.
don't think about it that way, but it is.
Remember the 70s?
Well, to be fair, things kind of have to progress from the 70s.
I refuse. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. It's better.
Time marches ever forward, so we have to
Time
move
marches
forward
ever
with it.
forward. As the science.
But like as a closing it out point, because we are bumping up on time limit
Yes.
here, like things like Super Monsters now is
yes.
doing the same itch, but for these generations. And what I like about it is specifically that one. And yes, I have watched all of it. And yes, I know it's a
Yes.
preschooler show. Don't at
Who
me.
cares?
It's amazing.
It
But
looks adorable.
it's
I mean,
so cute. It's the cutest thing in the world. I watched it all with my goddaughter, and it's the best thing ever. But like,
Sundown Super Monster.
it's so good.
Sorry.
It's so good. But like, what I love about it is they not only took the time to like be lovingly accurate to the folklore of each of these monsters, which you always see people hand-fistedly do, and me with a huge obsession of folkloric knowledge. It's like, but at the same time, they're also super culturally great. Like, again, like, they did a whole Day of the Dead special where they like have the Mexican characters talk about it and do all this stuff, and they bring their friends, and it's this great learning experience. And you have different cultural characters. Almost the entire cast, you get a perfect mix of people of color, and the monsters that they represent go with their ethnicities, which I also think is a lovely, lovely touch. So like it's just
the Asian one is a dragon. We have the
Mexican
vampire
wolf.
that has like a more Slovenic kind of culture. The witch looks more like Massachusetts than anything.
Yeah, she does, but I think she's supposed to be Germanic en route, with her name being Katsia and stuff.
Yeah.
Which also fits, because a lot of our early witch fables do come from that region. So, like, it's just really cool. Like, also, like, remember the ice one? It was, like, much more northern vibes as well.
You have a Cleo that's Egyptian.
Mm-hmm. And, like, her parents are actually shown as being dark. So, like, that was cool, too. And,
in comparison to the constantly portrayed light skin.
Yeah.
It was,
because
they went
people
there.
remember it. Egypt is in Africa.
Exactly, and people forget that shit. Well, it's in Africa, but I think it's technically, like, close to the Middle East, so, like...
It's close enough to the Middle East that it's considered part of it, but it is an African country.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, the idea that they always, like, display Cleopatra as some white chick, I'm just like, I don't think y'all know what you're doing. But this was, like, it handles it all really, really, really well. And it's a preschooler show. They also, like, handle awkward topics, too, which I like. Like, there was the one kid who was just very shy and didn't really feel like they fit in, and had nothing to give, and they took the time to really work with that kid and warm them up to the rest of the class, and it was really beautifully done. I think we need more inclusive media like this, and the fact that it's starting, it kind of loops back around to that earlier statement I made, where I think we're getting there. It's slow, but we're getting there.
I mean, we do have to start somewhere, so at least we are starting.
We had to grow up to actually make it happen to the media. So, like, when Gen Z's gonna hit the floor...
Oh, floodgates open. We're just waiting on them to get old enough to pick up the torch from us.
Wild West.
Like, as soon as they get, like, into animation or, like, in TV show, like, it's the end of, like,
coming up.
all
Gen
of
Z's
those
are in their
stigma.
20s now, so they're right on our heels. We're the bottom of age of millennials. The Gen Zs are coming.
I know.
They're gonna
Oh
take
my
it
God.
over from us.
Which is awesome, but also scary.
It
Yes,
is. It is.
yes, because
Or
Gen Zs don't
or do
fear
we think that
anything.
it's scary? Do we think it's scary because we are part of the older generation?
No, they just
Mm.
their lack of fear of bodily harm alarms me. That's the only thing I'm worried
Yeah.
about. They
They're
just
like,
don't
oh,
fear death
there's
at
a
all.
bear. Poke, poke,
Yeah,
poke.
I
like
mean,
that
that is
generation
one
is.
way to
Ooh,
learn that bears
they're
are
bold.
bad news.
Yeah, but like we learn by being like, there's a bear. I'm not gonna fuck with it.
Yeah,
True.
but maybe this is a larger topic for another time. And unfortunately, gang, we're out of time. So just to round us out, thank you all for joining us on this proto episode 0 episode of the Needlessly Complicated Chaos. We have been your hosts, and it has been lovely chatting with you both. And I hope y'all enjoyed this little segment of nerdy nonsense. Till
Good
next
night,
time.
everyone.
Good night.
Needlessly Complicated Chaos is a TBP Creates production. Your hosts have been Ace Rivas, Lynn Tao, and Sky Bernier Dion. Thank you for listening.